The next category that we have in our Byte That 2016 End of Year Awards is the Babyface of the Year. So throughout history, you have your Hulk Hogan, somebody that wants you to eat your vitamins. You have your The Rock with your over-the-top personality that everybody just loves and enjoys to watch on screen. Now in 2016, who has done that for the kids, the one that the people just want to love and hug and enjoy?
And
even though not all of them have been...
Enjoy is a strong word here, because while we are going to talk about the face of the year, easily the weakest parts of the WWE products are produced in this area. It's the one that I know on the show that we usually talk negative about the most, because quite frankly, most of the faces this year have sucked.
I agree wholeheartedly. So, Ryan, break it down for us. Who do we got?
All right. So for Baby Face of the Year, this is laughable that this is even on here, but Roman Reigns.
Yes. Well, we're done. We're done.
Yep.
We're done.
Back it up, boys. We're done here. Dean Ambrose, John Cena, James Ellsworth, Seth Rollins, Dolph Ziggler, Finn Balor, TJ Perkins, Shane McMahon.
The fact I naturally broke out laughing when you said Perkins, man. It says a lot about this.
I don't know who put that on there, but
yeah,
God bless.
So that goes, right?
Yeah, Perkins out. Finn Balor has, he's been hurt a lot of this year.
But he was I think this is more for Finn Balor's NXT run versus Samoa Joe, because he was the top face there. But I think this is going to be a mainstay in this entire category. Like, he was a face, but he wasn't the strongest part of that feud.
All right. Let's have this discussion, okay? Who was a good face this year? Because let's be honest, we don't have something like 2013's Daniel Bryan or, going into 2014. We don't have really that baby face that truly caught fire.
Like Cena would really be the only one that I would fight an argument.
But I have a question, though. I have a big question.
How much has he been around this year?
Is it about how WWE is supposed to portray them, or is it about how the fans perceive it? Because, yes, for the larger portion of the year, somebody like Roman Reigns, okay, not cheered, but I think that at the end of the year, he hasn't been doing too bad, but he's just suffering from the stigma that comes from being named Roman Reigns, where you naturally boo him.
For Baby Face of the Year, it should be that kind of combination of they are positioned as a fan favorite and the fans have actually responded to them. So, I mean, you can look at plenty of heels that get cheered all the time, but that's not a good baby face. Good baby face is someone who is doing a good job of being the good guy and actually having the fans respond to it.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So with that being said, this is not a top three, because I would totally cut Roman Reigns. I mean, no questions asked about that. If it is about how most fans, at least on TV, perceive it or however they react, yeah, you have some fans. Maybe in house shows, there have always been reports when WWE came down to Puerto Rico, not this year, but before, he was heavily cheered. But the ones that I would propose that we do talk about is Dean Ambrose, Cena, Ellsworth, Rollins, and Ziggler. I would remove Balor because I think that Balor was a babyface in NXT when NXT honestly didn't have much to go about. There really wasn't much happening. Like, remove Balor. Who else do you have? Ty Dillinger was being built up. Samoa Joe was a babyface just before that, like before he became the Beast and, demolished Finn Balor. Actually, yeah, I would prefer, if I had to pick between Finn Balor and Nakamura, I would replace Balor with him on this list.
I would agree.
Question, does Sami Zayn need to be on this list?
I mean, I think he deserves it over someone like TJ Perkins, for sure. I think we missed the mark on that one completely. Yeah. But Sami Zayn, I feel like he's just starting to get there now.
Yeah.
I don't know if he's babyface of the year.
Okay. No, I just wanted to bring up the name and then see how we feel.
Because another thing that you got to be concerned about is the positioning in the card, because you can have, I don't know, like if Santino Marella was in 2016 and he was the most cheered guy on the roster, technically he's the babyface of the year, but I think that on this category, maybe it's about like the impact that character has. It's not that just that you see him come out and go, yeah, cheering. It's you want somebody
totally
that you pay a ticket for.
I think that should be part of it.
It should be the crowd response. It's all about being the most. This is a popularity contest. This category. Who is the most liked?
Do people buy a ticket to see Santino, or is he just part of that?
If Santino is getting Daniel Bryan like pops, then you know what? People are paying to see him.
That's all about perception, really, because in my mind, what this category comes down to, like Ryan mentioned earlier, is are you being positioned as a good guy, and are you succeeding in that position? That's what makes the top face of the year, in my opinion. And to use your Santino example, if Santino is positioned like a good guy and people are cheering the living hell out of him, then I think he would absolutely be a contender versus somebody like a Roman Reigns, where you are putting him in that position, but he is failing in that position. He is not universally failing, but there is still that segment of the audience that would rather boo him. He's not the overall best, best good guy.
It's kind of a shame tag team. We didn't really put tag teams on here because I'd almost say like Enzo and Cass and the New Day are better baby faces than almost anyone on this list.
I would totally add Enzo. I feel like we got to add some more Enzo, people on this list.
I feel like Enzo Amore may be the baby face of the year.
Yeah, I think Enzo deserves to be on here 100%.
In no order. These are just some names that I'm thinking have to be in the maybe top 5 or whatever.
Yeah, folks, we clearly did not think this category through enough, and we're improvising.
We're doing it live.
Yeah, we'll do it live.
A lot of things have been crossed off on my list. So we have Nakamura. James Ellsworth. He's almost there, but I would cross him off because there have been those weeks.
This is not a hill I will die on for James Ellsworth. He can be gone.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that falls. James Ellsworth's face run is more a bullet point for why Dean Ambrose should be in this category.
My top 3.
Dean Ambrose.
Dean Ambrose.
I was going to say, let me talk about
4.
Dean Ambrose for a second, because he is a guy who I think was kind of all over the place this year. He was, people liked him, but people were kind of questionable about his wrestling for a little while. And I think he proved himself in matches with Triple H. And then, his character for a little while, people were actually starting to boo him over other people. But since he has really gone to SmackDown Live and has been one of sort of the flag bearers for that show, kind of carrying that show, I think people have come around to really starting to like Dean Ambrose. I think there was a time when he was champion that people were kind of not too high on him, but he's become a much more likable character by this time of year. Is he babyface of the year? I'm not sure, but I think he should be in the conversation.
I agree.
I'd say conversation, but you just said it right now, where maybe at the end of the year he's been that. But personally, I would also make the argument that AJ Styles, for all the bad guy stuff he's been, he's also had his ups and downs, and he's been fun to watch. Even on SmackDown, he's been cheered on multiple occasions, whereas those two guys, it seems like neither are face or heel early SmackDown. I think now it's definitely AJ's the bad guy, Dean Ambrose is the good guy, but either one of them being in the top 3 kind of feels short for me. I would have in my top 3 right now Nakamura, who wasn't even originally in our list, because I know it's almost like a cheap thing because people just love Nakamura, but he's been the flag bearer of NXT and people really like to cheer him.
But
Enzo Amore.
Sorry to cut you off there. I want to go on the Nakamura point a bit. In Nakamura's feud, I would put William Regal over Nakamura. Like, Nakamura's he's in the exact same spot as I would say Finn Balor was in, where he's just the catalyst to fight Samoa Joe. Like, yes, there's the whole language barrier thing, and everybody loves Nakamura, but he's not the good guy in what he has been a part of, if that makes sense. Like, he's not the best good guy in that. I think that there's stronger good guys. Like, people cheer Nakamura one way or the other. He's almost on a weird level like The Undertaker, where The Undertaker will never get booed. That sounds really weird. But Nakamura will never get booed just because of his previous stuff. And I don't know if he could do anything to get there. So it feels weird having Nakamura here.
I'm just going to jump the gun and say that my number one right now probably is Enzo Amore. The reason I didn't put him on the list before is because since we sort of had the tag team category, I figured, is he going to be here? But we made an excellent case there where Enzo and Cass aren't really a tag team. They're together, but they do their individual things.
I think Enzo has to be a lock on this list.
Yeah, 100%. He fits the bill of he is a guy that is a good guy, and the fans respond to him. Like, the fans are responding to Enzo and Cass more than pretty much any other act going on right now. They just have that way of including the fans in what they do, and the fans love it. So Enzo Amore would be my number one as well.
Now, what I do want to make sure we're perfectly clear about is because you're mentioning the fans. Now, this is our babyface of the year. So I think that it's tricky with this one because it's easy to think, well, the people are reacting like this. But I mean, that's what, like, I kind of feel hypocritical because I mentioned
down to perception. Like,
yeah.
We're how we perceive who, like, the fans are a super part of it. I would say the fans are one of the most critical parts of it, like the stadium crowds and how we perceive that versus like how we perceive what happens when they are on those events versus like what actually happens. It's tough to say, but I think it's a very important part.
I think we're kind of doing a combination of who we personally like, as well as who is getting the most response from the fans. Because at the end of the day, what's being a good babyface? Not everyone has to like them, but if the majority of the people are responding to them, that's being a good babyface.
One thing I want to make a case for Nakamura is that he is not in my top 5 anything this year. I may get some hate for that, but he's not. But I would make the top 3 for a babyface of the year, not superstar or any of that, even though I'm not a huge fan. Why? Because one of my favorite parts about wrestling is that being able to enjoy the match and not having to worry about, well, this guy's supposed to be good, but he's being booed, and then this guy's supposed to be bad, but he's being cheered. When you look at the rivalry between Samoa Joe and Nakamura, I love that I can just sit back and enjoy the match because Samoa Joe is the perfect bad guy. People are booing him, and everybody loves Nakamura, and I can just enjoy that match for what it is. And I believe in the role that each one is playing. Now, Nakamura, I'm not going to say he is The Rock levels or Stone Cold's level of babyface or personality. I think that he's going to struggle a lot in the main roster because as charismatic as he is, he needs Samoa Joe. He needs William Regal by his side to really play off the character that he's supposed to be. But he is definitely up there because aside from him, like it would be a dry hole up there in the NXT main spot.
And nobody wants that.
No. But to me, what you are saying, it sounds like you are making a point for Samoa Joe more than you are making a point for Nakamura. Like Samoa Joe is the stronger character of the two, and
what I can say for Nakamura is that this is a guy who can be liked without even having to say a word because he comes out, you feed off of his energy and his charisma, and you enjoy his matches. He's really fun to watch. So he can be a babyface without ever having to say a word just because of all the non-verbal, likable signals that he sends off.
So will you guys have him? Because we can talk about this all day, but if ultimately you don't agree with me, he would be gone.
I would probably still put Seth Rollins above him, and it's like...
I don't know about that one, because we're talking about... Seth Rollins is one of the most cheered people of the year. I will admit that. But for most of that year, Seth Rollins was not a face. And then once he turned face, that's when he started to lose some of the magic that was Seth Rollins. When he was a bad guy, he was a heel, we got the, oh, hey, you're booing me, but I'm saying everything that's true and right about Roman Reigns, and I guess some of you are cheering that. We went from that to Sparkle Crotch. And that loses a lot of points to Seth.
Maybe I spoke too soon on that one.
So I would personally cut. Cena's Cena. What can you say about Cena? But he's been one of the best good guys of the year.
It's tough because he hasn't been around lately. I can't think of anything he's really done differently to make him stand out this year. But I mean, consistency is a thing, and Cena has come around. The whole Cena sucks thing and people chanting that to his theme, that still kind of happens, but it's almost just like following tradition. It's like
tradition. When Kurt Angle was a good guy,
yeah, exactly.
And they would still chant,
it's just kind of going along with it. I don't think anyone actually dislikes Cena anymore at this point. He's just kind of become this respected staple of WWE. And maybe just that is something to look at, because not too many people have truly been the super lights this year.
Yeah. I think that this is a category where consistency from year to year can play a factor. And
absolutely.
John Cena is that. There is no better case for that. I don't think John Cena should be number one, but I think he should be on our list for that.
I agree. He didn't really change the game too much this year, but the fact that he's more liked than a lot of other people on this list, so maybe that's just worth being on there alone.
So, that being said, is our list John Cena, Shinsuke Nakamura, and Enzo Amore?
Nobody's talked about Dolph Ziggler, and I think that if we haven't brought him up to this point,
no,
that says a lot about him.
Yeah, just no.
Dolph Ziggler, we brought him up as a talking point, but even in Dolph Ziggler's main feud this year, because first he was feuding with Baron Corbin, like after WrestleMania, and that wasn't good. And then even in the Miz versus Miz versus Ziggler feud, it was all about the Miz. Dolph Ziggler was kind of there. We were at a point where we were super okay and hoping that the Dolph Ziggler would lose, the Dolph Ziggler I just said, would lose, so he would go away. How can we say that's one of the best good guys of the year when we wanted him to go away?
I was hoping he would retire, so he probably isn't babyface of the year.
No.
Uh-huh.
You know
Shane
what I realized?
McMahon is also on our list.
And I think we could just move on.
Yeah. We can honestly move on. But I will say, for next year, I think that this babyface in heel awards is so hard in WWE, because you take a guy like Chris Jericho, who's in our heel of the year, but he almost be my baby face of the year, but his character, he's supposed to be the bad guy. So should we maybe add next year an entertainer of the year or something like that? It feels like that should be the category, because the way WWE is now, it's so hard to just put one guy in the cheering versus the booing, because if it's a bad guy that's doing such a good job that you're cheering him, does that make him then the baby face?
Yeah, it's becoming more apparent that faces and heels, there's a little bit more of a gray area now, because fans seem to just respond to what's the most entertaining. And this should at least be enlightening that the faces are just generally not as entertaining as the heels.
It's true.
But with the ones that we do have, we've got Nakamura, Enzo Amore, and John Cena. What would the order be?
I would say for me, the order would be Nakamura 3, Cena 2, Enzo 1.
I 100% agree with that. Nothing more to add. I think that's the proper order.
Yeah, I agree pretty much. It's a very clean slate because Enzo, people loved him in NXT. He debuted on Raw, looked like a superstar, acted like a superstar, knocked it out of the park. The man was injured for a while. You know, Kaz has Kenzo. Big Kaz had his little time to shine there.
Here, folks.
Yeah. And then the moment Enzo comes back, he immediately takes the spotlight over and gets naked backstage. And for that, he is a number one. So without further ado, folks, yes, we do have at number 3, Shinsuke Nakamura. At number 2, John Cena. And at number 1 in our babyface of the year, Enzo Amore. How you doing?
Bada boo!
Boo! Boo! Who do you hate so much that you want to punch in the face that's not Keith? The heel of the year is the next category up here in the BT Awards. Find out now.